Steve Smith, Budgie Smugglers, Bondi Beach, the Gold Coast, David Warner, Aussie Rules Football, Mark Waugh. Your guys took one hell of a beating. West Indies, we're back.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. We've had to do an emergency one. It's about an hour since West Indies shocked the cricket world, ruled the cricket world, cashed in the money in the bank briefcase on the Australians. Santokie, we are the World Test Champions. We've just taken the title. We shocked the world. I mean, India have gone on and on about miracle at the Gabba, Santokie, but I actually think this is a genuine miracle at the Gabba when you consider the level of inexperience of the squad we turned up with against the 19-time World Test champions. Santokie, how do you even put this into words?
Listen, I never thought I'd see the day where we're recording an episode about West Indies winning at the Gabba. Mash, they said we were pathetic and useless. They said it was a nail in the coffin of Test cricket. We were so down bad, we were sending a security guard from the local supermarket to lead our attack. West Indies were out. This was it. This was the end of cricket. And we have come back, Mash. I told my wife I've had this shirt in my cupboard for about 25 years. West Indies 90s classic kit. I told her the day West Indies are back, you will see me wearing it again. I am wearing it today, Mash, because West Indies are well and truly back. And I would say this would go down as one of the great all-time Test cricket victories, Mash. If you look at the context of the side we sent out, it was at the Gabba. This Australian team, they're seen as invincible against most sides in Australia. We have managed to do the unthinkable. And this side, the players in this side, they deserve all our respect, all our plaudits, open top bus parade, because, Mash, this is an iconic win which neither of us thought we would ever see.
Yeah, and let's take a moment, because we know that some of the players watch what we do from time to time. And you know what, Santokie, before I do what I'm going to do, I think it's important that we remind people that even in the episodes where we bust a laugh or we crack some jokes, the one thing that is clear with CCP, we rally no matter what time it is, no matter who we're playing, we're rallying anyways, even in the improbable or impossible situations. But first things first, round of applause for the team.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Round of applause. You man, you deserve everything. You deserve, every one of you deserves a gold chain. Every one of you deserves a big paycheck. You deserve everything. The whole region. I've got so many text messages from people saying tears in my eyes. Like when we tweet it on Caribbean Cricket Podcast, it's supposed to be tongue in cheek, but this one, genuine tears in our eyes. Like this is a genuine tears in our eyes moment, and it should not be. There isn't enough hyperbole that can be used to describe the importance of this win. And just to kind of remind people again, Santokie, Chanderpaul, these are the number of test matches each player had of the inexperience of going into this test. Chanderpaul 8, Kurt McKenzie 1, Alec Athanaze 2, Kavem Hodge 0, Justin Graves 0, Shamar Joseph 0. So around that, the rest of the team had some level of relative experience, but between 6 players, they had 11 tests between them. And then if you want to look at things like first-class centuries, barely none between them as well. So when we're saying stuff like this is one of the biggest shocks in world cricket, it certainly in the modern era, of where the West Indies are at and what Australia have done. Australia just won the ODI World Cup. They're the World Test champions. They went to England and survived Bazball. So we can't, like one man messaged me, Santokie, or messaged us, sorry, on Twitter and said, yeah, but you played Australia at the end of a long summer for them. And come on, man. Come on, man. Come on. Let's not try and qualify what's happened here. This is historic. I don't even know where we start. So we have to start with Shamar. We have to
start with Shamar. Just Mash, I know you tweeted about it, but it's also it's strange with this West Indies side. As you said, it mirrors what we did in Bangladesh when, we had Mayers and Bono come in. And even if you go back historically, the whole, we'll make them grovel, motivated the players. And I know Craig Brathwaite talked today about, the comments coming from people really fired them up. So I don't know, it seems like it's just like a West Indian thing, when people cuss you out and say you can't do it, it's like the motivation to just prove everyone wrong. Because like you said, Mash, there was no justifiable reason why this should have happened. If you compare this Australia side, one of the all-time greats, like these quicks for Australia, Cummins, Hazelwood, Stark will go down as the greatest they've ever had. It's at the Gabba, their fortress. And just when you look at the makeup of our side, as you said, Mash, Hodge and Graves making their debut, Kurt McKenzie and Afanese only played 2-3 tests coming into this series. Under no logical reason is there any reason why West Indies should have won. So the fact they did it, and Mash, let's start with Shamar Joseph because we have to. Man was down and out yesterday. We thought he'd broken his toe. He couldn't even stand up. For him to come back today and take a seven wicket haul at the Gabba and then run as if nothing had happened. What a contrast! And Mash, where do we even start with Shamar Joseph? This goes down as, we talked about this being one of the great West Indian performances. I don't even know where this ranks in West Indian bowling performances, because to see the turnaround in a mere matter of hours from what we saw last night to now, to taking a 7-wicket haul against this Australian attack, Mash, how do we even summarise his performance?
So he did a post-match interview with, I can't remember if it was Mark Howard or maybe it was Isha Guha, I don't know, where he basically said, listen, I was at the hotel until, he said, I was at the hotel, I think he said until about 11 and didn't think he was going to play and had no intention of playing. Then the doctor said, listen, come down, let's work a little ting-ting. And he was able to, and you could see that he was playing for the pain barrier because he was grimacing. He was grimacing through a lot of his overs, but that sometimes adrenaline just gets you through. And obviously, once he'd got the first wicket, the first wicket of the day, which was, let me just remind myself, Cameron Green. So they were 113 for 3, and then immediately he got Travis Head, bowled down Travis Head the next ball. At that point, adrenaline's getting you through. You're believing you can do anything. He's already got a fifer from the first match. So he would have known, you know what, let me just guts this out, right? And I think if you look at his performance, I think 4 of the 7 wickets he took, let me just remind myself. So he bowled Cameron Green, bowled Travis Head, bowled Alex Carey, and then bowled Josh Hazelwood, which just speaks to his sheer pace. If there's one thing that all batters hate, it's accurate, hostile pace, and the key word being the accuracy. So many of those deliveries were just middle stump Yorkers or off stump Yorkers or whatever it might be that the batters just couldn't do anything about. And it's churlish, Santokie, because people have told me not to say this, but I think it is important to kind of say this off the jump, because I think to ignore it, I think this is the perfect time to say it because everyone's going to be talking about the West Indies. The key, Santokie, of course, is we just have to find a way to hold on to him. We have to, when somebody does that on the world stage, the West Indies tends to be your gateway through to T20 glory. And no one will deny him that when it comes. But I just hope, I think Bish tweeted about it earlier on in the day as well, about 3 hours ago, saying the Guyana government, Cricket West Indies, have to find a way to make it financially worth Shamar Joseph's while to play for West Indies. Otherwise, this could go down as one of the most iconic Netflix stories ever, which is just over within 6 months. But it is it's a Netflix story, Santokie. It's actually a legit Netflix story.
This is, and I think Shamar Joseph, obviously there's a lot of adrenaline involved. I think he's given an interview like literally within the last 20 minutes saying no matter how much money is involved, he'll always play Test cricket. Obviously that's like with him, just everything, obviously you're going to do that. But like you said, realistically at the same time, how are we going to make it financially viable for someone like Shamar Joseph to focus primarily on tests? And this is this going to be like a wake-up call for the powers that be to think, hold on, look at, because this is going to galvanize cricket. No, it's not going to fundamentally transform cricket in the region, but people are going to wake up in the Caribbean. It's now it's about 3 a.m. in the Caribbean. They're going to wake up, and this is going to brighten up everyone's Sunday. This is going to get the talking about. Hold on, West Indies, we did something here. So are we just going to let this slide, or are we going to try and build upon this? And like you said, Shamar Joseph, how do we make it? What's the incentive for him to carry on focusing on Test cricket match? But this performance, like you said, I think it was adrenaline. But the fact he took 7 of the 8 wickets today, bowled just the sheer pace. Australia, they didn't know what to do. They were flustered. They were just rolling over like dominoes. I know Steve Smith was still there, but everyone was falling around him. Just complete chaos. And West Indies, by creating this atmosphere of velocity and chaos, it was kind of like almost like a T20 game. We created that uncertainty. So Australia lost all composure, and in that moment, we know what can happen in cricket, and we managed to pull off the unthinkable. So, yeah, big talking points, Mash, going forward about sort of how we capitalize on this and what this means for our Test cricket and our investment in the region. But for now, this episode, we're just going to focus on what an amazing achievement this has been.
Yeah, and I think we have to also remind people that, again, for those who may not have been watching live, that when Shamar came on, he bowled 10 overs straight with a bruck toe. So it wasn't like he was bowling short, sharp spells and then coming back. He went 10 on the spin, 40-minute break for tea, straight back to bowling again. Like the current debate that's going on in one of my group chats is whether this was the greatest West Indian bowling spell of all time. Now, I think that's a bit of hyperbole. I think we're caught up in the emotion right now. But in the context of what was going on for Shamar Joseph, in the context of 27 years not winning any match in Australia, Test match in Australia, in the context of the quality and experience gap on paper between the Australian team and the West Indies team, yes, when you add all the kind of qualifying context to what went on, it goes down as one of the most iconic and memorable bowling spells in West Indies cricket history. And you know what, Santokie? I think we need to big ourselves up, though, because if you go back and read our tweets, we were saying in the South Africa series, you know, the A-team series, we were just saying, yeah, call man up to Test squad, you might as well go Australia. So it's I know, like, all of the kind of writing has been like security guard, but it wasn't like I guess what I'm trying to say is it's a surprise, but it's not a total surprise in so much as his form had suggested he should be going to Australia. He might be a big problem.
Yeah, I think, Mash, this is, like you said, we have to pick ourselves up. I think this sort of shows people who tune into West Indies when we're playing Test cricket, so outside of the region, who follow it, would be like, the obvious narrative is, he's a security guard. This is so funny, man. Like, he's a security guard. It's a feel-good story. He's a jolly guy. He's taken a few wickets. Plucky West Indies. They tried their best, like Shamar Joseph. He's the future. But still, we gave them licks. Like, this is it. But I think for us who've been following regional cricket, he was taking wickets for Guyana Harpy Eagles in April. He obviously got the CPL call-up. And he played in the later stage of the tournament, which kind of showed his potential. And then, as you said, the key moment, that South Africa A tournament, where he's taking wickets. And at that point, we'd even tweeted about it. If you're taking wickets against South Africa A, which has had a lot of Test players in it from South Africa, if you're taking wickets there, it's not a massive jump to go into the West Indies senior side. Like it wasn't like my man was just working at a security firm and then they just plucked him out of nowhere and he found himself in Australia. There was a gradual progression over the year. Admittedly, it was a short space of time, but every time he'd been given a level up, so from regional cricket to A-team cricket, he'd managed to step up and taken wickets. Yeah. So it wasn't unreasonable to think, hold on, he can do this at Test cricket. And when you think the lack of sort of depth we have in the pace attack, it completely makes sense. So whilst the narrative for most of the people today will be, this guy was a security guard, he managed to do against all the odds, there was progression within the region. It's not come as a massive, massive shock. And we sort of been there across this year, kind of progressing how he's done. You can go check our social medias. We've been tweeting about this guy for the past year or so about his progression. So for us, it's not a massive shock. And also one final detail, Mash, I want to talk about is with Shamar Joseph. Bowlers aren't bowling 10 overs on the stretch unless they truly believe in their captain. So we have to also shout out Craig Brathwaite, because he obviously instilled enough belief in Shamar Joseph to say, hold on, look, we can do something here, man. Just keep on going. And for Shamar Joseph to reciprocate that by saying, listen, coach, I'm going to do it, man. Like my toes block, I'm in pain, but I'm going to keep bowling for you, for the team. That speaks to the belief that Craig Brathwaite had instilled on his team.
Yeah, people will focus on Craig having a struggle with the bat, but I think we now have to understand that under Craig's captaincy, I'm not saying we've like done major stuff, but under Craig's captaincy now we beat Bangladesh away when we went with a weakened squad, draw with Sri Lanka at home, draw with Pakistan at home, beat England at home, beat Zimbabwe away. Now, some people say you're supposed to do some of this stuff. Drawn with Australia, won a test match in Australia. Forget drawn with Australia, won a test match in Australia. And it must be remembered, people are going to talk about rain, but the point is we drew that test match with India in the second test versus India. So I think Craig needs to get some props as to being the West Indies test captain. I think Craig is a good leader. You very much get a sense that his kind of calm exterior helps that team and has helped the team over the time he's been captain. But do you know who I'm going to say we need to give some credit to, which is going to shock some West Indian fans more than people outside the region or other fans of other teams? I think we have to, and Desi, if you're listening, I think Desi has to get some props, Santokie. Desi and whoever else helped him select that squad, Roland Butcher, before he got ousted, obviously, and Andre Coley. But let me explain why I'm giving props. I'm not giving props because I'm saying all of the selections were vindicated, because they weren't, right? But when you select a squad like this and you leave certain men at home, you're staking your reputation on the line. They could easily have taken Jermaine Blackwood and cited experience. They could easily have taken a Raymond Reefer and cited experience. So a couple of men got left at home who arguably should have been there, right? And when you make those calls and say, I'm taking a bunch of inexperienced men, your reps on the line. And even with Shamar Joseph, as you just to kind of clarify a point again you've made there, is that Desi had said to give him his due about 6-7 months ago when it was the South Africa tour, we need to find pacers. We need to find raw pacers in the region. We're looking for raw pacers. As you said, Shamar did bits for Guyana Harpy Eagles. Obviously he was in CPL, but they then made the choice to take him to the A Tour. So that's Desi. That's Desi and the selection panel. They made that decision, and they made the decision take Kavem Hodge to the A Tour. That South Africa A Tour had a lot of players who subsequently came on the Australia series. So planning goes into that, right? It's not just a case of there was no connection between South Africa A and Australia tour. There was clear thinking about, we're taking certain men there because we plan to play them in Australia. Kavem Hodge went, Shamar Joseph went, Josh De Silva captained, etc. All of this to me was part of the process, and it's probably no coincidence, Santokie. Kavem averaged 30 in South Africa on that A tour. Josh got a century, right? Shamar was the top wicket taker. Kevin Sinclair scored runs and took wickets in South Africa. Every single one of those 4 players came on this tour to Australia and contributed at some point. Josh got a 79. Kavem got a 71. Sinclair made a 50 on debut. Shamar Joseph is probably player of the series. Okay, so to be fair, I think we have to give props to Desi. Good job, Desi.
Listen, good job, Desi, Mash. I think, you know what? That catchphrase has taken on a whole new meaning because we actually mean it.
We're actually meaning it. Desi, if you're listening, good job, Desi.
Good job, Desi. He thought, listen, Desi, he had that vision, He said, listen, this is coming. This is all building up to that Gabba win. But Mash, I think, like you said, no, props to Desmond Haynes. Obviously, he called it. He picked these players. Obviously, in terms of Shamar Joseph, obviously a lot were forced by other options, and Sparrow fought for Jason Holder, who's sitting in the UAE at the moment. You thinking like, oh my days, man! Like I've missed one of the all-time great moments at the Gabba to play for like Dubai Capitals or whoever he's playing for at the moment. So it's actually mad when you think about it. And like you said, I think as well. Not only will this sort of, in terms of fans, sort of spur things on in terms of Test cricket. Other players, if you're players in the region now, if you're Hope, Mayers, Holder, you're looking at these scenes, you're looking at the reaction, you're looking at, and they've all played Test cricket. They know how big this is to win at the Gabba. You know, you're looking at the fulfillment it's giving players. So is this also going to reinvigorate players in the region to hold on? You know what, man? Like, obviously there's bags to be had, but also Test cricket, man, you can't replicate that feeling in other formats. And as a sportsman, primarily as a sportsman, that's something you're always going to be searching for, that feeling, that sort of legacy as well, which money sometimes can't compete with. Obviously, we don't expect players to give up all their T20 bags and focus on Test cricket. But just in terms of, you know, how players are viewing Test cricket in the region at the moment, is this going to change things? So a lot of in the future going forward, it'll be interesting to see what implications this has. But Mash, let's just focus, because you've been up since 4:30 a.m. man. Or was it 4 a.m.? It was 4 a.m.
Yeah, 4 a.m. Yeah.
When you woke up this morning, what were your thoughts, especially because Green and Smith put together some sort of partnership in the morning? What were you thinking when you got up? Did you think, hold on, West Indies could do something at this point?
So before I answer that, I just forgot one name. Kirk McKenzie was also on that South Africa A tour as well, and I forgot to mention him. But so I put a message in the Discord about 40 minutes into their partnership, or 35 minutes into their partnership. I was falling asleep on the couch and I was just farting. And I put a message in the Discord telling people I'm down bad, you know, I'm just farting on the couch. I'm tired. I'm going, and I was a few seconds away from saying, let me go on my bed, you know. But to be fair, Santokie, I'd said the night before, the only point at which I'll think that West Indies can win is if we get Pat Cummins out, because I know that they can bat properly down to Pat Cummins. And that was when we got Cummins out, I said, yeah, we're going to win this one. I felt it. I knew we were going to win them. But I didn't think we could win before play started, but only because I didn't expect Shamar Joseph to bowl. So I'd gone in, I was getting up out of loyalty to the Maroon. But in my head, I was like, well, we're going to need something extraordinary to try and bowl Australia out without Shamar's obvious pace. And then when I saw man take the ball, I was like, and then he bowled his first 3 balls. And I was like, wait a minute, he's on the money here. And then, yeah, I think, like, as we said, once he started taking wickets, I was locked in. I don't know. I'm still kind of buzzing off it. But you know what? And yes, if people say, listen to this, just enjoy the victory, lads. And yeah, 100%. Don't get it twisted. I'm going to fully enjoy the victory for the whole day and beyond, right? But I think the one thing that's kind of plaguing my mind about all of this, Santokie, is we've been here before, but obviously not such a great win like this away from home versus Australia. But we've been here before where West Indies win. Usually it's when we play England and everyone's like, right, West Indies are back. And now, obviously, you and I, we always tweet West Indies are back. They're like, right, West Indies are back. The corner has been turned. And then we kind of revert back to doing what we do, right? Let's just build on this point about what happens next, right? Because this still, for me, continues to mask, and people are going to go, oh, Mash, you're such a downer. But hear me out, Santokie. We can't allow things like this to mask the global inequalities and the fundamental drawbacks that exist within cricket in the region. That means that, yes, this is historic. Yes, this is amazing. Yes, we should celebrate. But without fundamental change in how cricket is operated, this could end up being an isolated moment in history that doesn't actually lead to what people think it might lead to, because Test cricket is still unsustainable. We still have made no money doing this tour to Australia. There is still the threat of global T20 tournaments that will habitually take our players away. So I just worry that the people who want to say, oh, Test cricket is the best. You see, look at this great Test match between West Indies and Australia. Look at this great Test match between England and India. That's still masking the actual issues around Test cricket and making it an equitable sport.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, Mash. I think we can't let this cover up and kind of the inefficiencies and sort of the gap, the inequality in terms of the gap between sides. Because I mean, let's take Shamar Joseph as an example. The fact we had to rely on someone who was a full-time security guard a year ago to come into the Test side. Whereas this for Australia, when you bring in new players, they've been playing in the Sheffield Shield for years. They've been at a youth academy. They've been developed. The system is there. So whilst we can have these feel-good stories, which happens, like, we talked about Bangladesh, we talked about, and occasionally we'll pop up with these surprise victories. Because of the system and how the lack of funding and resources West Indies does have, we can never build upon these. These are isolated events where we cause a shock, and the next series we go to, we take licks because things revert back to normal. You can't beat the odds every single time you play, because then it doesn't work in sporting terms. Essentially, everything evens itself out. So if we want to build on this, how do we sort of resolve those inequalities? I don't think, at this point, I think the debate has gone on for so long now. I don't think the ICC are willing or capable or willing to even sort of bridge that gap. I don't think it's going to change. I think the gap will probably further divide as we go on and on, because there's always recency biases. So I'm sure we'll see articles talking about how we need to reinvest in West Indies cricket and quote unquote smaller test nations. But within a week or so, if something happens in the England-India series, which is dramatic, people will just go back to talking about that, and we'll just focus again on the big three, quote unquote big three. So I would like to see some sort of substantial change, but I'm not holding my breath, Mash. I think maybe that ship has sailed in terms of anyone proactively doing anything, because even other boards, if they were really vocal, India, Australia, England, if they were really vocal about this and were really proactive, we would have seen something. We haven't, and this has been going on for years now.
So again, people think that we're being negative with that. I think people won't think we're being negative because it's true, right? So you can't accuse people of being negative for saying something that's true. They'll say that now isn't the time, but I disagree, Santokie. Now is the time. And the reason why now is the time is because if we're not talking about it now, when West Indies have just done something, why are people going to listen when West Indies aren't doing anything? Do you see what I mean? So if you don't make up the noise now, like if I'm Johnny Grave, now I'm making up even more noise. Now I'm saying, you see, and just imagine what we could do if people actually cared. If you see what's going on, right? And what I'm worried about, Santokie, is our next test series now, because obviously the Pakistan series got cancelled to be rearranged for some point in probably next year sometime, right? So we no longer have that Pakistan series in February. Obviously, we've got limited over series coming up now. Our next test engagement is after the World Cup when we come to England for three test matches. I know what's going to happen, Santokie. The media is going to build that as the West Indies are coming. They're fresh off 6 months ago. They're fresh off a 1-1 series draw. They're fresh off a 1-1 series draw with Australia, which is better than anything England have done in Australia anytime recently. And they're going to frame it as this is two champion sides going head to head against each other, as if something miraculous has changed in our developmental structures and financial structures that mean all of a sudden now we're a top tier side that should be beating England in England. That's how it's going to be framed. And that's why I think we have to raise things like this, because it's too easy to create a narrative that, oh, you know, if West Indies just try harder, then you can be good. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I think, yeah, man. I don't even think we mentioned Australia are the World Test champions. So for us to draw the series is done now. It's only a 2-test series. So we've come out of Australia with a 1-1 series draw match, which
No, we're the World Test champions now, you know. We're the World Test champions. When we go to England, we are the World Test champions. As far as I'm concerned, we just smacked up Australia in their own turf, on their own turf. Come on, man. Come on, England. When you come at us, you better not miss, you know, the real world champions are coming to England.
Yeah, the England tour is going to be funny, Bash. But I'm going to, and you know what, like you said, people are going to be like, why are you guys talking about future events? Focus on this one. We focus on that beginning of the episode. I think because of how everything is, if you want a proper breakdown of the test and how it went, we'll probably do a live show, get everyone involved at some point in the future. This is just instant reaction. Like, we're recording it early. It's 9 a.m. in the UK. We're just reacting to this iconic win. But Mash, just thinking ahead to the England tour now. Obviously, Jason Holder and them, man, they stepped out. Jason Holder should walk back into the side based on his quality. But do you think this has thrown a curveball in terms of if it's not broken, don't try and fix it? In terms of we come out of this iconic win, do you make any changes going into England? Do you say to Justin Greaves, you know what, you were part of this win in the Gabba, you chipped him with a few wickets, but Jason Holder's a better player. Do you go through that, or do you see some sort of scenario where this sort of same 11 kind of goes to England?
Well, first things first, I realised I'm so tired I didn't even put my mic in, so I don't even know what the audio has sounded like this whole thing. 1 second, let me just plug myself in.
No, I've been hearing you, man. So it's calm.
Cool. Oh, here I am. Right, so there will be people who listen to this and say, I already said that I think everybody on the tour deserves to go to England. I said that before today's point, that I think you have to reward these people. I will go back to what happened, though, Santokie, when we played Bangladesh away in 2021, when the senior guys said they're not going because of COVID, right? Holder lost the captaincy and got in his feelings about it. I don't think Holder's ever properly recovered from that whole period of losing the captaincy, right? Lost the captaincy, got in his feelings. Josh became a regular. Mayers became a regular. Bonner became a regular. Several men like Brooks, Chase, them man, lost their spots, right? Everyone got in their feelings about losing their spots. The game's the game as far as I'm concerned. If you go to Australia as a test match squad and come away with our first test match win in 29 years or whatever it is, and upset the apple cart and do something that nobody in the world believed could be done, cricket world believed could be done, every one of them man deserves to go to England. They have to. Even Graves, who didn't really score much runs, yes, he took a couple wickets here and there, he deserves a second go at it. So for me, Santokie, I think the squad in Australia is what? Is it a 13, 14 man squad? I think only one man or two men really get into the squad. And even then, there's no guarantee that they're playing. Now, if it's about just on paper, yes, Jason Holder should play instead of Justin Graves. And a proper side is just ruthless. And they look at Justin Graves and go, you know what, you man, we're going to let you come on the tour, but you're not playing again. You just have to make ruthless decisions like that. But I think it would be harsh to not reward this squad all with the journey to England, just because it's a collective, right? Yeah. It's not Shamar Joseph took 7 for 68, whatever it is. And yes, that was the kind of key thing that won us the test match. But look at the body language of the squad. That was a squad effort. That was squad belief. That was a collective that said, we're in this, we're going to win this. Shamar got the wickets, but it's a collective team effort. And when you foster that spirit, where a collection of players, they believe that they're better than they are. You know, like when Arsene Wenger used to like bring man like Alex Song and Igor Stefanovs and them man, Gilles Gramondi and all them man, to believe that they were better than they actually are. When you foster something like that within a changing room, technically that's better than having star players or so-called star players, because the whole is better than the individual.
Yeah, no, I think that's an excellent point, Mash. My voice is gone, but yeah, I think on paper, obviously, you can make those changes. Oh, statistically, Holder will do more, for instance. But if you're Andre Coley and you're those players, what you created, the sort of environment you created, and sort of the bonds that are formed, especially because Australia is such a long way away, like such a long tour for the players. The bond you create there is almost priceless, and you sort of have this sort of collective unity, which is hard, which emotion reaction is, and you don't want to break that up by chopping players in, chopping players out. So it'd be interesting to see where they go. As you said, there's precedent for it on the Bangladesh tour. Obviously, we know what Holder can do. We know he'll be effective in England. So it'll be interesting to see. I think, obviously, he'll be part of the squad, 13, 14-man squad. Similar with Hope. I think Hope would come into the squad in a place of Imlak, because Imlak didn't play, for instance. As that sort of, but will they be in the 11? And that'll be very interesting, because as much as we say Justin Graves, it wasn't a great performance. He was part of the side. He tipped him with a few wickets. Mash, we've seen county cricket in England. That medium pace, you can get a 5 for quite easily in England, especially in the summer months. So he will be useful. It's not as if we can completely disregard him. So it'd be interesting to see where we go. But that's the barrier we cross going forward. And I'm pretty sure at this point, just going back, one more. I mean, we have to talk about just Shamar Joseph so much because this is an iconic performance. If there's one player that gets injured in the IPL or has to miss the IPL, Shamar Joseph is number one, surely, to get a call up, because the pace he's exhibited, I know he hasn't played that much T20, it's transferable to T20 cricket, which is where we could see this whole battle between T20 franchises and Test cricket sooner rather than later for Shamar Joseph.
Listen, have you even mentioned T20 World Cup? Because surely the selectors are looking at Shamar. You can bet your bottom. Sorry, both of us have lost our voice. That's West Indies have sent us over the edge. But you can bet your bottom dollar that IPL franchises are in Baraka right now, building him a home, building bare condos, building a motorway, building a bridge from there to flipping Georgetown. You can bet that But you can bet your bottom dollar that IPL owners are watching that, because again, people forget that as much as T20 leagues dominate the kind of market right now in the calendar, playing for West Indies is still what gets you noticed before you get into those T20 leagues, right? So if they're looking at him, why wouldn't West Indies be looking at him and thinking, wait a minute, this guy could be an X factor at the T20 World Cup? I think it would be naive. If, to be fair, Santokie, Brucktoe notwithstanding, he should have been selected for the ODI squad anyway. If you're already taking him because you think he bowls fast, why wouldn't you have taken him and kept him on for... I know he's got the deal in the Dubai League, but I think they need to think outside the box and say, hold on a minute, man is hot. Like, you know, if you have to say a man's injured to get him in, say a man's injured. Like, do you know what I mean? So it'll be very, very interesting to see how things go going forward. Listen, you said that we may well end up doing a live, and we might have to, because we haven't. I don't think this is the show to give out the player ratings and kind of scrutinize who actually did well versus who had a poor time of it. Because in a proper show, if we do it tonight, Santokie, we have to talk about Tae Chanderpaul and in his form and things like that. But this one was just a quick reaction one to the history making. Most of the Caribbean's asleep, so somebody before the rest of the world tried to paint the narrative for us, someone before they tried to paint the West Indian narrative, even though they're not West Indian, we had to paint the narrative from a West Indian perspective, you know. So, last words to you, Santokie.
Yeah, like you said, we call this the miracle at the gap. Actually, Mash, we even said, man, remember when Barak came on the pod? We said if West Indies win a test, he's going to have to write a follow-up book, because this would be a miracle. And we've seen a miracle. There's no way, this is an exaggeration. Nobody in their right minds would have guessed West Indies would have done anything in this series. No less at the Gabba, the Fortress, a day-night test as well. Australia, you know, they're invincible when it comes to the day-night with the pink ball. So for West Indies to do that, like you said, Mash, this isn't the right show to go into details about who did what. We're here to just celebrate the moment. It's rare we get occasions where we can genuinely celebrate. This goes down in the Test Cricket Hall of Fame. West Indies are back, Mash. Miracle at the Gabba. This has been a reaction episode. Stay tuned for the live at some point. Mash, final words. What you got to say?
I've got two things to say. Firstly, if you've made it this far, like, share, subscribe to everything to this video. You can see the ticker tape below in terms of the Carib Cricket handle at Carib Cricket. If you're new, particularly probably if you're an Aussie, follow us. Great cricketer, man. If you lot are listening to this, we need to come on your show and just slander you, man, and bust joke. So if you're listening to this, bring us on. And one more thing, and this is for the team and all the West Indian players. You see, last summer when we didn't qualify for the World Cup, I was down bad, and I said that you man are shit, but all is forgiven. In our most down bad moments, there is always a rise again. West Indies, we rally at all times, from down bad to great. Congratulations to the team. Congratulations to Andre Coley, Jimmy Adams, Sean Tate, the backroom staff, all of you lot. Well done. History made. You've made the region proud. West Indies are back, people. See you soon.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.